All right, let's get after it. A December 5th afternoon edition of the Horse Racing Happy Hour. We work around our guest schedules on this show. I'm Louis Rabeau, studios of ESPN Louisville. I'm actually in an old side recording studio that we use here for essentially for promos and this show. If you ever listen to the Kentucky Racing Spotlight, which will be on tomorrow, 6 p.m. in our local market here, you'll hear many things recorded in this studio here at ESPN 680 and 1057. So, hey, join us tomorrow. Derby winner, Oaks winner, Clark winner, all 150s all this year. Brian Hernandez Jr. joins us on that show tomorrow night. We will have that on this podcast platform as well. Steve Kornacki will be with us in about 10 minutes. Producer Zach hanging out behind the scenes with us today. Appreciate him making us part of his early part of the day. And I just kind of wanted to start with early conversations about who's at the top of the Derby standings, what we saw at Churchill this year. Now, as we move into sort of these winter months, I kind of think of, at this point, the Cigar Mile weekend, especially the Remsen, those sorts of things, being kind of a line of demarcation, getting into the winter. Obviously, here in Kentucky, that means the move to Turfway Park. We'll have the synthetic championship coming up here in about 10 days, which is exciting. Have to go check that out, see what that looks like for the first time. But after that, man, until the Pegasus, till we get into those later, sort of Derby preps in Arkansas and New Orleans and that kind of stuff, it is the winter of this sport for sure. And so the Cigar Mile, to me, man, that tarp goes over the grass there in Ozone Park, all those sorts of things. And it just is a different time of year in horse racing. And we'll get into that. And one of those things that it absolutely comes up is who's in this Kentucky Derby field at this point. And look, we could always debate what the difference is going to be between, say, is a horse going to be peaking too early as a 2-year-old, that kind of thing. Is this a situation where, we think we know who's who and who's doing what and what that looks like and what it might look like in the spring, and we simply don't. But at this point, of course, the most interesting thing, we don't need to bury the lead here, is that Bob Baffert's got the top.
Oh, we lost Louie. We're waiting on Steve.
Am I back? Can you hear me?
Your audio is back, yeah.
Okay. Something is going on with my computer today. That is not great. Why don't we just go ahead, wrap this one, Zach? We'll send a new link to Steve, and I'll get my computer restarted.
Or we could just leave this link.
Okay. All right. I'm going to log out. You go ahead and talk for a couple minutes. I have no idea what you're going to say, but I'll be right back. All right, brother?
Yeah, sounds good. So one of the things I love about being a producer on the Horse Racing Happy Hour is the ability to sit here and do nothing while Louis talks. So I guess Louis not here. I can talk. Oh,
is that me? How about that? Can you hear me? How about that?
I can hear you. You came
How
back
about that?
to
All the things. Okay. Well, no one likes you, so go away. There we go. All right. How about that? So there you go. Zach's off the screen now. Get back to the show here. Steve Kornacki with us in a couple of minutes on the Horse Racing Happy Hour. But of course, at the top of the trail, of course, is a man named Bob Baffert. And this is a man who's is just no stranger to this stuff. And frankly, when we get to the top of that group with a horse like Citizen Bull, let's be clear about what this horse is and why this matters for moving forward with the Derby Trail, is that this is a get out front, stay out front type. And when Baffert wins his derbies, this is generally how he does it. When you get an Authentic, when you get a Justify, when you get an American Pharoah, those kinds of horses, they're all get out front, stay out front types. And you get that with Citizen Bull here. Martin Garcia, of course, has gotten them out to this point. I think he'll be keeping them as well. Guy that really knows Churchill very, very well. Of course, some of the local ownership with the Starlight folks, the SF Racing as well here in the Commonwealth. I don't know what to make of that horse at this point. Obviously gets out front, stays out front. Very impressive at Del Mar in the Breeders' Cup this year. What does that look like as far as by the time we project that to the spring? It's impossible to know. Usually and generally speaking, we don't get great horses, in November that also translate to May. We do have notable exceptions. Of course, I would say most recently, a couple of years ago in the Kentucky Jockey Club, we had Smile Happy And then we had in third place in that race, a White Abario, who went on to win the Florida Derby. So at least he was really good at that point, obviously became a classic winner, those sorts of things as well. Ran in the Cigar Mile even. And so I do wonder if perhaps Citizen Bull is one of those kinds of horses that does his best running in early November, almost certainly going to get some time off in that Baffert barn. We'll see him probably, gosh, Zach, if I had to guess, man, that he feels like the horse that they'll leave in Southern California out of the Baffert runners, and they'll send a horse like Gaming or something else out there to Arkansas, which Bob, of course, loves to use as part of his road to the Kentucky Derby. Spread those horses out. We see that in the different barns. Brad Cox has got runners this weekend in New York. He's got them in the fairgrounds and that kind of stuff. Got to spread your runners out when you've got that many at the very top of the sport, Zach. But I mean, you were there on that Friday for Breeders' Cup. I mean, yeah. Citizen Bull out front, stay out front. It's as impressive as we had that weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say that I'm going to disagree with you and say he's going to bring him out to Arkansas.
Oh, Citizen Bowl to Arkansas.
Yeah, I think he's got an opportunity there if that horse explodes.
Yeah, no, that's right. $1.25 million kind of races in Arkansas that he can't run in Southern California. I mean, we see those purses ticking down.
It's hard to say it, but Southern California doesn't pay, right? Like it's still they're struggling with that, and they're going to continue to struggle, especially as these other companies come in and sponsor these big races out east and in the Midwest.
Well, especially in Arkansas, that's got the backing of a very healthy, just a healthy racino sort of thing there with their casino on site there in Hot Springs, and frankly, a town that really cares about it. That area of Arkansas, as into horse racing as any part of the country that we've been in. We saw a lot of really great stuff in the Carlsbad area, that kind of stuff, just north of San Diego when we were out for Breeders' Cup, another part of the country that really gives a damn about their horse racing for sure. But it does stand out that he's got the top two in the Derby standings, the very first chance that he has coming back. We see with Baffert, for example, and it's interesting to watch, Zach, because one of the rules, the new rules they have with the Derby qualifying this year, is if as the fields get smaller, the percentage of points goes down as well. And so you see Baffert entering extra horses at Los Al to make sure those fields get to 7, those kinds of things. That'll be interesting to watch. And what I'm getting at, Zach, is while the money in Arkansas is undeniable, getting in the starting gate for the Kentucky Derby is the goal for an ownership group like this. Obviously, you need the checks for things to go, but they're pretty well established. And this might be the kind of group that ends up just wanting to qualify. A Citizen Bull in that case then would be a horse that frankly can run anywhere and qualify, right? He's already way ahead. He's got 40 points already. Many years, 40 points will get you in the Derby. Now, some of the reworking of the points with the 50 pointers, with the 100, etc. He's probably going to need to pick off another 2 or 3, probably 2 races where he's at least second place, that kind of thing. But having that 40-point jump, man, he's already in a great spot as well. By the way, we're going to besmirch a horse later when we get to Aqueduct, and I'm very excited to besmirch this horse because of who his dad is. Just perfection. Just things. Zach, we used to be a proper country. We used to be. I'm not sure that's true, actually. But we pretended to be a proper country. You understand me? And now we got horses being bred by horses that have no business being in the breeding shed. And now they're the favorites in Derby preps. I got very, very little time for this kind of stuff, Zach. We'll just have to see what Steve Kornacki says about that. I
want to go back to the Bob Baffert conversation a little bit.
Sure.
Which is, if Baffert doesn't hit the board in the Derby, is that a disappointing year for him?
Yeah. I think with this crop, with what the expectations are, I think the answer is yes. Yeah. In the same way, and I'll flip it. I think if Brad Cox doesn't hit the board in the Oaks, good Lord, what are we doing? I don't think if he doesn't have a top 2 runner in the Oaks, given all the Philly strength that he's got in his barn right now in that 2-year-old group, I would be surprised, number one, but number two, on top of that, they're just too good right now, man. It's just too good right now. And so I'm hopeful that they'll be on top there. I think it's just, and you know my opinion on this, I think it's good for the game when the very best are involved in the game. That's it. That's the whole conversation. This is very simple for me, frankly. And so getting a Baffert back, having Brad Cox with a bunch of great fillies ahead of the Oaks as well. But if you look, Cox has the 1 and the he's just got 1 in the Oaks prep at in the Demoiselle this weekend with Muhima. I think she'll be the favorite by the time we get to post time. But The other thing, by the way, before Steve comes on, I don't want to put Steve in a bad spot. The NYRA people, we're less than 48 hours away from these races. I have the morning lines for the stakes from David Aragona on his Twitter site, and nothing on the past performances and nothing on Equibase from NYRA yet. We're less than 48 hours out from this card. We're trying to talk about your races, people. I blame Matthew DeSantis. That's what we're going to do. We're just going to blame Matthew DeSantis and just run with that. I think that's what we're going to do. We'll talk to him tomorrow, by the way, on Rebo and Co. on ESPN 681.57. But no, we got a horse in these races that's just ugly. Of course, also in this group, by the way, Zach, is a horse named Jonathan's Way. And I'll be interested to watch his development because we see him run really well at Saratoga, comes back in that Iroquois, dominates the field in the Iroquois, goes out to Southern California, to the West Coast. It doesn't have his best race, comes back, runs in that Kentucky Jockey Club, runs a good second. A good second for sure. But I'm wondering if he's not a two-turn horse. I'm wondering if we're just going to find out with him that he's a one-turner. And I'm sure someone just rolled their eyes and said, you think you know what a 2-year-old's going to be when he grows up? You're right. I probably don't. But in the case of Jonathan's Way, I think there's a chance that he's shown us what he is as far as what he's going to be the best at. Now, it's a son of a coma. We don't quite know what the Vacomas are necessarily and what they're capable of, how they fit into the sport sort of in general. But I would say, if one's going to jump up here, Jonathan's Way does seem like that kind. Not to be lost, by the way, Getaway Car has 11 points in the standings and is another Bob Baffert, of course, right? So Getaway Car might be the one. You might be right about this part, Zach. They might be sending their horses at the top of this to go, Citizen Bowl, that kind of horse to Oaklawn to get those checks. My wonder is with a horse like Getaway Car, is that the one you leave at home because you got Juan Hernandez, you're going to be able to run those races in Southern California and try to keep packing up the points that way. Of course, Chancellor McPatrick on the East Coast, East Avenue, almost fell out of the gate. You and I were there for that one, almost fell out of the freaking gate in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. And so interesting to kind of figure out where these horses are at. Zach, if I gave you the top 10 in the Derby standings right now, from Tiztastic all the way back up to Citizen Bull, or every other horse that could be qualifying for the Kentucky Derby, what would you take right now? I'll take the field.
What horse would I take, or what?
Would you take the top 10 in the Derby standings right now, or every other horse? So you get those 10 or the field.
I'm going to say every
nice
other
horses.
Horse.
Yeah, I agree. There's some nice horses that ran this fall, though. Let's bring him in. His name is Steve Kornacki. He joins us here on the Horse Racing Happy Hour. We'll get rid of Zach. We'll bring Steve in for the show. Goodness gracious, Steve's hidden somewhere in a bunker. What's going on? What bunker are you stuck in, Steve?
I'm on the 18th floor of a building I don't usually work in, but I can tell you, I was listening last week, and you put me on Fifth Avenue with all the fancy people, and that is not where I'm doing this from.
That was more of an Illman joke. You watch your mouth, Steve.
Okay, yeah.
That's more of an Illman joke. That's a New York thing. I'm not involved in that. I'm here in the middle of the country. You understand? We were kind of recapping, to this point, and I know you're just kind of getting your feet back underneath you after a long election cycle and all those kinds of things. But you got to do the trip to Del Mar. You got, a little bit of R&R for you. How did you take in Breeders' Cup? Anybody surprise you? And do you have a Derby favorite right now?
Definitely don't have a Derby favorite right now. Although, I'm interested in this this Remsen we're going to talk about, because it's been it's produced some interesting stuff the last few years. No Derby favorite. For the on Breeders' Cup Day, I think look, we were all disappointed you didn't see that idiomatic Torpedo Anna matchup. I think we'll talk a little bit maybe here about the sprint too. I was surprised how that one went. I didn't think Straight No Chaser was ever going to hold up. I was, I missed I was big on Fierceness in the Classic, just missed, and that's my style.
No, that's okay. I don't think you should feel bad about your Fierceness pick, because that might have been the best race he's ever run.
Yeah. He's finally, that whole, every other race thing is put to rest, I think.
Yeah, I think he's put that to rest for sure. Well, he's Steve Kornacki at Steve Kornacki on Twitter and all the things. And of course, you can find him on NBC and all the places. Let's get into the Aqueduct card. Will you make the trip on Saturday? You going to be at this, Remsen?
I'm going to be there for the back half of it, for the good stuff.
Love hearing that. All right, so heading out to Aqueduct this weekend. Leave him alone. Matthew DeSantis. You leave Steve alone. You understand me? It's not like quite like put a blanket over my head and telling people to leave Brittany alone, but it's not terribly different. David Aragona has put the lines out for this weekend, so you and I will go on those, of course. But race 7 does start, the late pick for Steve, and it is the Derby prep here in the Remsen. As you mentioned, 3 Grade 1 winners in this race last year between Domestic Product running 7th and, of course, that stretch duel between Sierra Leone and Dornick, which ended up being a bit prophetic for what we were going to get. And how cool is it, man? We get Sierra Leone next year. We get Fierceness next year. We're going to see Torpedo and a Mystic Dan. I mean, just to set that up, 2025, what a spectacular year we might have.
Yeah, I hope after being down on the older crop this year, we, maybe this is the start of some kind of a trend. Maybe we got lucky, but looking forward to it, definitely.
Yeah, no, that's right. I think sometimes we look at like 2-3 year snippets in a sport where, by the way, we just had the 150th Clark, and we kind of assume the 2 year snippet for a sport is everything, and instead we see a different kind of trend. The 2-year-olds will be running in the Remsen, the mile and an eighth, start at the start line and finish at that same line, Steve. Tux is in here, a second-time starter, is going to be stretching out for Bill Mott, but the favorite in here is going to be Keewaydin, the 5-horse. Dylan Davis gets the mount. This is a horse that broke his maiden last out at Aqueduct over 7 furlongs after running at Saratoga in August. I think this is a horse I'm going to try to beat just for money, Steve.
I have the same reaction. I was trying to think of some other way to go, and I'm trying to think of some way to justify going against here besides the short price. The 2 things I came up with I thought were interesting. Chad going from a maiden win to a graded stake on dirt last 5 years. I think it's 4 for 34. So, and there may be, I don't know if this might be a stretch. Is there sort of a distance question with this horse, going out to a mile and an eighth? So maybe between that and the short price, I'm gonna look elsewhere too. And the Mott one stands out. He has a much better track record, obviously, in that setup, the maiden win to the graded stake. I think he's I wrote it down here. 6 for 26 positive ROI on dirt. So, maybe it was a bit of a longer price there, but I don't think it'll be too much longer. And I like kind of Poster as a wild card in this, the turf horse, the Owen Hardy's early candidate for comeback of the year 2025.
Yeah, he had a nice little weekend over the weekend at Churchill as well. Several 2-year-olds around the country. And frankly, we're at the part of the year, Steve, where I let jockeys kind of dictate some of these bets as well. I'm not betting against a Flavian Pratt in a graded stakes. And frankly, at Churchill this last meet, I wasn't betting against Louis Saez. I'll put it that way. So I think that's probably a wise place to look with Poster coming out of Keeneland, as you mentioned, that 1 mile on the turf there. But he is the son of Munnings. We've seen the Munnings for sure on the dirt as well do things just fine. I would not be surprised. I want to be very clear. I would not be surprised to see Keewaydin win this race. I think that's definitely in the cards for Dylan Davis in that spot, but just from a pure betting perspective, try to beat him there. How many do you think you would include in, say, the late pick 5 or something like that?
I think it's probably those 3. Initially I looked at it and I said Studley Do Right. And I looked closer and, I realized I had a note in here that in that Nashua, the track that day was favoring, the inside speed. And he kind of, I think that might have boosted him a little bit there. So I have kind of a feeling he may not quite be at that level here. So if I can save some cost there, I'll take that chance. But yeah, I think Tux and Poster and I think the only question then is, do I use Keewaydin defensively in a pick 5 or something? But I'd be good with those 2 trying to take a shot.
Yeah, the incredible thing about, I think, Studley Do Right here is, he does have the 2 runs at a mile, both of those over 1 turn. So he's actually trying the 2 turns for the first time. He won't be the only one in this group. But like you mentioned, with a horse like Poster, that horse has at least gone the 2 turns before, right? And he's done it twice on that maiden win at Ellis, and then, of course, followed it up at Keeneland as well. We'll move on to the Demoiselle. That is race 8 here. And then we'll get you into the Cigar Mile. Grade 2 here for the fillies on the Oak side of things. Another $250,000 race here, Steve. Buhima is going to be the prohibitive favorite. Frankly, it is, even for Brad Cox, a stunning amount of riches in that filly barn right now with 2-year-olds. Spreading those out around the country for the different preps here. More of a single lean for you or more of a try to beat lean in this case?
Yeah, I mean, he seems to own the Oaks Trail, and this doesn't look like. I mean, those wins and geared down in the last one. I mean, I see what is an 79 buyer for the last one. That could have been a lot higher easily. And then I just started looking here. Obviously, I want to try to beat it because I think the price is going to be extremely short on this one. But I mean, I think you're kind of left with the two that I'm a little curious about. You got Mott in here, and it's the exact same reason, beauty range, exact same reason, potential, and there's Tappet there, maybe the distance. And the other one, I was a little interested, you say, because he's run the 2 turns before, excuse me, she's run the 2 turns before, would be Bless the Broken, switched over, to Walden's Barn, seems to be improving, maybe finding her stride. But I feel like I'm grasping when I go with these, and I haven't fully decided, but I would lean probably towards singling and looking elsewhere for prices.
I think Mohima's that horse in the late sequence. Whenever I have you on, I like to try to key in on this horse. Is she the one you got to beat to get a big payout over this sequence? I think she is, probably, right?
Well, there's that. Then, can you thin it out? Can you thin it out a little bit and just hammer the base unit or something? But
the reason I like Bless the Broken, though, is because you're going to get Mohima out front. That's what she's going to want to do. She's going to want to be on the pace, up, maybe setting it even, and then you're going to get a chase from Bless the Broken. Ramon Vasquez, if he's a little patient, that's a guy who grew up at Golden Gate Fields on the Tapeta there. You got to be patient on that surface. If he's able to just kind of keep her a little bit off the pace, she was pretty good over that mile and a 16th at Churchill. And I think the thing that sets up well transferring to Aqueduct in that case is it's a long stretch at Churchill, man. And so she's not going to be overwhelmed at all by what's happening at one of those Long Island tracks where the stretches seem to be as long as the island itself. And so, no, I think that's not a bad play, and especially at that 12-1 kind of price. We've seen Will Walden do stranger things than win this kind of race.
You're talking me back into it now, and it's not gonna take too much nudging because I hate taking the 2 to 5 or something. And I think part of it is psychologically, if I'm coming off doing the Remsen and I just decided I'm going to play against the short price there, it's like, am I pushing my luck doing it 2 times in a row? But the other one, I mean, if we're talking like hey, there's a chance for someone else here on the far outside in this one. You got that Chad horse, Ballerina Doro. Turf. You don't know how that's going to translate, but look at the breeding on that one. You got, Medaglia Doro. It just looks absolutely bred for the distance, and then. In that, again, it's turf, you don't know, but in that Jessamine, it's 8th place, but that could have been a lot closer than 8th. That all just got jammed up, repeatedly there in the stretch. Finally got out late and was running. So yeah, I'm a little interested there. And yeah, I'm now you got me thinking it's okay now to do it twice in a row. I want to. I want to. Talk me into it.
Yeah. No, I think in this case, between the Remsen, especially with these 2-year-old races, right, Steve, where we're still figuring out what these horses are good at, what they're, going from a turf to a dirt. We saw a lot of this, frankly, with the Kentucky Jockey Club. So many horses switching surfaces in that one as well. When they're this young, Steve, I think trainers, especially now, there seems to be less of an emphasis on chasing, say, a grade 3 in Maryland or something, because it's going to be 100,000. You'd rather run for non-4 lifers or something for 140 at Churchill or 110 at Saratoga or something. And the other thing is with the 2-year-olds, people are trying a lot of different things. So you're seeing, for example, you brought up the horse on the outside of here, Ballerina D'Oro. She broke her maiden at Kentucky Downs, right? And then she comes back, runs another flat race though, in that Jessamine, as you mentioned, and she's very good. So we see her good on multiple surfaces. I don't want to say that I don't think of Kentucky Downs as turf, but because it is such a strange layout and what they do there is so unusual, it's nice to see those horses come back and run well on a flat surface like Keeneland. So I don't think it's a crazy pick at all, but if I had to lean in this case, I think it's Bless the Broken, Ramon Vasquez, who'll be making the trip to Oaklawn after this weekend.
So are you throwing out the favorite here?
No, I am not.
Yeah.
But I do think if you're trying to, one of the ways to maximize here is to play, a really pressed exacta, that kind of thing, just a $20 cold exacta, something like that. I think in this case, Bless the Broken, probably like 16, 18 to 1, something like that. I think you can get a good return on your exacta in that case. All right, Steve. So we're going to play a game. We do this with all of our big races on the show. And so today you're going to tell me if a runner in the Cigar Mile can win, and we'll say cigar. And if they can't, you're going to say close, but no cigar. All right. Sound good?
Love it.
Did you like the save the neck for me last week with the?
That was. Yeah. I was wishing I was on that one just for that.
There you go. Illman played along well. All right. So the Cigar Mile, of course, is a mile, that one-turn mile there at Aqueduct. $500,000 for the grade 2 here. A race with a lot of history. And Steve, I was saying before you came on, I think of this as sort of of curtains on the fall season. This to me is the last, sort of big weekend before we go completely south of here, right? We go to Gulfstream, we go to Fairgrounds, we're back to St. Los Al and Santa Anita, that kind of stuff out west as well. We'll start with Bookham Dano. And this is a horse that just ran second in the Perryville over 7 furlongs. Frankly, if that had been a mile, I think at Keeneland, the horse probably wins. A 3-year-old in here, Steve, do you think Bookham Dano has a chance?
Cigar, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. I mean, my concern, I guess my worry would be, I feel like, is he a victim of some bad circumstances? I think like he was in the Perryville when he really, had all that difficulty squeezed there on the stretch. Or does his running style sort of produce bad luck in difficult circumstances? And especially, I think, if breaking on the inside here and not, just gunning for the lead, is he going to find himself in a really tough position there on the rail? But even when he's had those bad trips, he finishes really well and is right there, and I don't see why that's going to be any different right now. So absolutely, in my mind, a contender.
Yeah, for me, he's a Cigar as well. We saw him in that Saudi Derby over the 1 mile turn there at Abdulaziz. He finished second to a little horse you may have heard of before. His name is Forever Young. And so, yes, he's been in some very good company. Frankly, the race that caught me off guard, Steve, was that he came back from the Arabian Peninsula so well in that Woody Stevens, comes back in that grade 1, goes ahead and wins that thing over 7 furlongs. I think if that race is a mile, I think he wins by 3 or 4, something like that. And so obviously an older group to deal with here, a more experienced group than those 3-year-old races he's been in. But I agree with you that he's absolutely a must include in this one. Nelson Avenue is the 2 horse here. He's going to come in at 30-1. I will say this, like Luis Saez in Kentucky, betting against Dylan Davis, not the smartest thing in New York there, Steve Kornacki.
I've been on an absolute tear. And I mean, I close, but no cigar for me, although I'm not sure how close it was, to be honest, but I'll go along with that. Yeah. I just, one of the things I think, lately been showing more speed, and there seems to be a lot of speed in here, and that plus the low figures, relatively low compared to the field. Yeah, I just don't think quite up to it.
2 for 3 at the distance and 1 for 2 at Aqueduct. I'm a close but no cigar, but I'm actually close here, Steve. I think this is a horse that can hit the trifecta. I think this is a horse that if you're filling out that kind of wager and exotic in this race, I think you have to include, and I think can offer incredible value. Dylan Davis, a big part of that for me coming out of the Potts barn there. Here's a horse that could ruin your day, folks, and his name is Repo Rocks. He will be the 3 horse in here, another 30-1 horse. Silvera getting them out here for Jamie Ness. He comes in that 49er. We're seeing a lot of horses in that late October prep for this race in the 49er over the mile there. Steve, coming back in, cigar or close but no cigar for him?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going close but no cigar, but yeah, in that 49er, I'm just looking at my notes right here. Yeah, I mean, yeah, right, he had traffic trouble there, boxed in until very late. So, and has certainly shown in the past the capability at Aqueduct at the distance, even at the level. I'm just thinking that, now at 6, and I never quite know what to make of these Jamie Ness horses anyway, but, I just, I kind of, but I took a longer look, I think, than I did on number 2.
Oh, okay, there you go. I had the opposite reaction. He's less close to me. No cigar here for him in this case. Repo Rocks, though, does have 4 wins at Aqueduct lifetime in 15 runs. Has won this year. Has kept it. Look, these are fun horses, Steve, and you and I have talked about this on the show. They get to be 6, they're gelded, so they're just going to keep running forever. You get an honest effort every time. And so, look, I'm not rooting against him by any stretch, except that I won't be betting on him this weekend. Vinsanity comes in, he'll be the 4 horse. He's 50-1. We get the bug boy on him today. He's running at 112. Under Martinez. It's not a bug, but it's just there. He's been running. Look, his last win was at a 25 claimer, Steve. Close, but no cigar, I imagine, for both of us.
I just don't see it here. So if he wins at 50-1 or maybe more like 90-1, it happens.
Yeah, good for them. That's exactly right. All right. We move on to Mulligan. Flavien Prat gets him out here
Yeah.
for Rodolphe Brisset. This horse ran third in that Breeders' Cup Sprint, was coming at the end. It was in the form. I think the form got this one right. I went back and watched this, Steve. Mild rally. I agree. That's what that was at the Breeders' Cup that Saturday. But before then, ran really, really huge in the Forgo and in the Neyrood before that as well. Would not be surprised, Steve, if he's the favorite at post time.
Yeah, and I mean, so I got to say Cigar because I think he's not going to be my pick, but I could see it. When I look at that, at that sprint, it's kind of a weird race. And for him, that's not his style. He wasn't really forward, and I wondered in that race too if there was so much. I mean, it's a sprint, but there was so much speed there. I think everybody seemed to assume there was going to be a meltdown, and I wonder if there was almost a sense of like let's maybe sit back a little bit here and not, get caught in it. I was wondering if that had happened. So I think he, again, like the way I see this race in my mind, at least, kind of playing out, it maybe is a little more closer friendly, but no, I mean, look what he's done. I mean, he's won the Forgo. He's a contender.
Yeah, no, I agree. Total cigar for me here. Like I said, I think because of the connections and Flavien Prat getting them out here, the likely post-time favorite in my mind for this one. I don't think people will hold that Breeders' Cup against him and will instead look to that Neyrood form that he had there before his last run and only run at Aqueduct. To date, outside of him will be Law Professor in the 6-hole. Off Lasix here, 15-1. Kendrick Carmouche, I saw a stat the other day, Steve. He's hit 100 wins a year for something like 15 straight years. It's just an insane run he's on right now. It may be longer than that. I'll have to look it up while you're talking, but just an incredible run. He's one of these guys, wins a bunch at Aqueduct because he's willing to stay up there and do the thing. This is a horse that won in a mile and an eighth here. One of, speaking of Dan Illman's favorite angles, is going a little bit back in distance. Do you give the 15-1 Law Professor a chance here?
This truly is close but no cigar for me because I'm looking at it trying to get away from the obvious ones, and this is one I looked at a lot. 5 for 7 at Aqueduct. I think has won 3 times at the mile. Ultimately, to me, I just look at it and I think that at least recently the best success has come at a lower level, and the waters are probably too deep here.
I agree. By the way, I was totally off. It's 24 straight years with 100 wins for Kendrick Carmouche, who's an unbelievable.
It's 20 for the entire 21st century.
Literally 01 was the first year. That's right. It's incredible. It's an incredible run. Kendrick, if you get it done, buddy, good for you. I'm betting against you, but good on you. If you do get it done, Pletcher's got locked in here. This was a name we heard a lot last year because this horse won at Saratoga by a bunch. Went ahead and won at Keeneland in that Grade 1 Breeders' Futurity, and then finished third behind Fierceness, but was the favorite in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Came back, this son of Gunrunner, at Aqueduct over 7 furlongs and won by 312 lengths. Steve, is he a cigar? No, close but no cigar here.
I mean, to me, he's a cigar because he's sort of the wild card here, in that you feel you haven't seen exactly what he's going to be, and the potential is obvious. But this is, again, now this is graded stakes with older horses. This is not the company here is vastly different than that last race, but at the very least, I think he's shown, he has the potential at least. And, with the performances, speed figures like that, it's a cigar to me.
Cigar, he's my top play in here, actually. And so I'm going to take this horse second off the layoff here for Chad Brown, going from sprint to route. But frankly, that 7 to a mile to me, not that much of a step up. Was so good last time. Got out of the gate really, really well. And frankly, just put that field away, including Gunnett, who's not a bad horse, by 7.5 lengths. The minute 21 is about right, especially since they were able to gear him down a little bit at the end of that race. So yeah, he's a cigar for me for sure in this spot, and he will be my top play when we get to Saturday. Pipeline is just to the outside of him there in the 8-hole. Off Lasix. Junior Alvarado does get them out here 20-1, Steve. Cigar or close but no cigar?
Close but no cigar. I'll pass on the stogie on this one. It hasn't really got it done at the level we're talking about right here. Well,
and he loves 2 turns, which is interesting, actually, right? So he's been better over that mile and a 16th, of course, at Churchill Downs. I'll go close but no cigar on this one as well. I think the mile might be okay, but a mile at Del Mar or Santa Anita not at Aqueduct. One that I cannot figure out is Senor Buscador. He is here as well. He is the next up. He is the 9. He is 6-1. He will need speed to run at. The good news for him, I think, Steve, is that he will have speed to run at. Todd Fitcher's been training him. I love this, by the way. Todd Fitcher has been training him at Zia Park. I love that so much. They're just Senor Buscador just walking around Zia Park in New Mexico doing the damn thing. Cigar or close but no cigar?
Well, I'm going to say Cigar because I do think he can win the race. I'm not gonna pick him. I agonized. He was my first look at this race. He was going to be my pick, and he was going to be my pick because just that one turn mile at Aqueduct. You got that long. I think it's suited to his style. He's pretty much outside there where he can kind of run where he's comfortable. He was in this race last year, and look, it was in the mud. He's starting to make his run. It was in the mud. There was a bias that day towards the rail, towards the inside, so it wasn't really a fair fight in the stretch, and he still got second, still running at the end. You're right. I think there's going to be pace here. I can't get over what's happened since he came back from the Middle East. You could make an excuse for the Breeders' Cup easily. You could make an excuse, for the comeback at Del Mar at 7 furlongs. That's not his game. Right. Then you add in that awesome again, or California Crown, whatever they call it now. And now you're trying to make 3 excuses. I can't get past that Santa Anita one. And I just wonder if he's kind of lost his fastball.
It's amazing how good the Classic was that he ran a 103 buyer, and we're like,
Yeah.
That's how good that Classic was. But I'm gonna take a stand here, and I'm gonna go no cigar. I'm not gonna include him in my tickets here, just to try to shorten up a little bit, maybe press a little bit earlier in those 2-year-old races. But I just don't think this is his game, Steve. Now, I do like the long stretch. I like that long sweeping turn for him because he's going to need to gain that momentum coming out of the gate. But I'll just go ahead and say close but no cigar there. Steve, I'm going to go first on the next one, and this is for Coastal Mission. 12-1, Arnaldo Boca Chica coming to town to ride for Jeff Runco. And this is absolutely a cigar for me. This is my long shot play in here. Love Coastal Mission. 5-year-old gelded son of Great Notion. They paid $7,500 to breed this guy. He's made over $1 million in his career. Those are the kinds of horses we love on the Horse Racing Happy Hour. And I do think he's got a legit shot here, Steve. I thought he looked great in the 49er. And I think he's been around enough 25 career starts. He's not going to be intimidated by this competition.
Yeah, I agree with you. I love a good West Virginia bred. And I mean, look, I feel like the odds, if those are the odds you're getting, if this doesn't become like the trendy pick who suddenly is, but if those are the odds you're getting, I think, the concerns I'd have, I said maybe not quite fast enough, maybe not quite at this level, but, capable, worth a shot, always, dependable. And I think a live long shot's the way to look at him.
Yeah, the only time he's been off the board was in the Charlestown Classic, but that's a 3-turn race. It's just not his game, right? Yep. So I think, frankly, in this case, he's absolutely live, and I think your pick is going to be on the outside as the Russells come to town. Breeders' Cut Dirt Mile alum in Post Time. I'll go ahead and click cigar here, Steve. Why does Post Time win this race?
I did this wrong. I was holding out till the end to give you, and I realize I've given you some I'm not taking along the way. I'm not taking Post Time.
Oh no! Hey! Can he win the race though?
Yeah, he can win. He can win. And again, he's drawn where I think he'd want to be. It's going to come late. He does always come late. It's one. I think he's left himself too much to do, and I'm not sure that won't happen again here. My pick in the race, who maybe I didn't sell well enough. I'm going to go Bookham Dano. I got concerns. No, I mean, I got concerns on the inside, but right. That's sorry, I did the segment wrong here.
No, not at all. Actually, it's totally fine. No, because the purpose of the segment is can they win or not is really what this comes down to. I agree with you, by the way, on Post Time. Cool story in the same way, frankly, the 2 outside horses here, you get the West Virginia horse, you get the Maryland horse from those kinds of circuits showing up here in New York for this. He does seem to be in every other type as far as his speed figures, but frankly, I thought he looked really good in the Met Mile behind National Treasure this year, ahead of horses like Hoist the Gold. If he runs that kind of race, Steve, I think he can absolutely win here. Frankly, if he repeats his 4 from Del Mar, I think he's got a real shot here as well.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
So there you go. All right. So you are on Bookham Dano, and I am going to try the ride the lightly raced Locked in this case. I know you got to get going, but do you have a quick pick for the last race?
Yes. I'm going to go Bill Mott. I'm going to go Reynolds Channel.
Okay. That is a Reynolds Channel, Junior Alvarado. There you go. Okay. All right. So he's coming in, ran in the Jerkins earlier this year, a little bit of time off. But of course, that is a 22% angle for Mr. Mott as well. Hey, Steve, we appreciate you, buddy. Have a good rest of the day. And, don't be a stranger. Maybe, next week, check us out for that little synthetic championship. How about that?
Yeah, you got it. Good luck. Good luck Saturday, Louie. And don't put me on Fifth Avenue anymore.
Sorry, Steve. Sorry. Get him out. All right. Steve Kornacki, we
care.
appreciate you. Thanks, buddy. All right, Steve Kornacki. There you go. He joins us here on the Horse Racing Happy Hour, man with hard outs. How about that? I live a life with a lack of hard outs, Zach Zaner. You understand me? So there you go. So listen, the good stuff right there. Steve Kornacki, a horse nerd. I love that guy. But yeah, no, a fun sequence as well. The cool thing too, and if you've never tried the bet, the Grand Slam this weekend, it's a $1 bet. You got to pick top 3 finishers in the first 3 races, the winner in the last race. It ends with the Cigar Mile this week at NYRA. Might be a fun week for that, frankly, because if you can catch some of these 2-year-olds in that second and third spot that don't take as much money as some of these other horses, got a real shot to clean up on that. And frankly, if we can catch in the Cigar Mile, if a horse like Coastal Mission does end up winning the thing, maybe that's the kind of horse that could get you a big payout as well in that Grand Slam kind of bet. But I'm Louis Rabeau. We'll be back tomorrow morning, 10:20, more Aqueduct talk with our guy. His name is Matthew DeSantis, who works with NYRA Bets. And then tomorrow night, you can hear me on the Kentucky Racing Spotlight, guy named Brian Hernandez Jr., who piloted Mystic Dan, Torpedo, and of course, Rattle and Roll this year to 3 big wins. We talked about his year at Churchill Downs and where, frankly, cool part of the story there, where does Torpedo Anna fit as far as the best horses that he's ever gotten to ride in his stage? But Zach, if you could play the music and get us out of here, we will do exactly. We'll talk to you next week.